create your first video game with GameMaker before this video ends. You don't have to pause the video, just keep it running. And however long this video takes, that's exactly the amount of time you're going to need to create your first video game with GameMaker Studio 2.
Real-time tutorial with Jonas.
I've been using GameMaker for a very long time because it's easy, cheap and fast, which is perfect for indie developers with small teams and small budgets. Let me show you a couple of games that have been made with GameMaker so you can get a rough idea what you're getting into. Risk of Rain, Undertale. It has sold over 3 million times. That's crazy. Hyper Light Drifter. They're selling their game for $20 on Steam. Crashlands, Rainbow, Hotline Miami. Such a cool game. Nidhogg has been played by a lot of streamers and YouTubers. Downwell, overwhelmingly positive reviews. Thoughts will be watching. Actually tried to play this, but it's really hard. It was a really interesting game. So yeah, it's kind of a cool engine for making 2D games. Think you got that. So if you want to make 3D games, this is not the video for you and it's also not the engine for you. Use Unity or something like that. This is for making 2D games in a very fast, effective and efficient manner. There's also an entirely free version, which is obviously the one we're going to use in this video. This video is for everybody who hasn't used GameMaker Studio 2 before. If you have made a ton of games in your life or none at all, doesn't really matter. As long as you haven't used GameMaker Studio 2, you will learn something new here. Do it now, okay? Make your first game now.
Real-time tutorial with Jonas.
2 things. Firstly, turn on some music, because that makes it more fun and more enjoyable. Secondly, if possible, put this video on a second screen. So if you have a tablet or a second monitor, just put this video on that screen. But if you don't have that, don't worry, it will still work absolutely fine, because every time there's something you need to see, I will tell you. So as long as you have sound, you can still click back and forth between whatever you're working on and the video. Because yeah, the main premise of this video is that you will be done before this video ends without pausing this video. You can absolutely do that with or without additional monitors and screens. Also see it as a challenge. Try not to get distracted and try to keep up with my pace, okay? It's like a game. If you can't keep up, then it's game over. Can you keep up? I challenge you. Okay, let's get started.
Real-time tutorial with Jonas.
Warning, the real-time part of this video starts now. Only continue watching if you're ready. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Open a new tab in your browser and search for UU Games. You will find this website from UU Games. So now we need to find the download button for the free version. This website might not look the same if you watch this video in the future, but there will definitely be a download button somewhere. In this case, it's when we click on GameMaker, then we can click try for free today. Don't worry, I'll give you some time to catch up. In case you missed that, click on the top on GameMaker and then on try for free. And then apparently we need to click on get free trial. Now they want us to create an account. As we're just using the trial version, we'll just use 10-minute mail. So you can pretty much use any 10-minute mail service you want. I'll go with this one because it looks nice. 10-minute mail is basically a service that allows you to do email registration stuff without giving your real email. So we're just gonna copy the email from this 10-minute mail account right here. And then we're gonna click on sign up on the UU account page. Sign up. Do that right now. Have you found this page already? If not, just go to uugames.com/register. Okay, catch up time. Go to 10minutemail.com, copy the email address you see there, then go to the UU website, click on sign up, and then paste your 10-minute email address into the email field. Enter your email address, confirm email address, name. Just fill in your information, hurry up a little bit. We don't have forever. You need to keep up with me. Gonna enter my password. Now we'll click on register. After you have clicked register and created your account, head over to your 10-minute mail and voila. The email with the activation link will appear. Click on that link with the middle mouse button. Don't click it with the left mouse button because then your tab will close. We still need our 10-minute mail later to sign into GameMaker. So either save your mail somewhere or just open or click on the link with the middle mouse button so the tab stays open. Click on the activation link. And you should see your account has been activated. Please log in below. That's what we're gonna do. Also, still don't close the 10-minute mail tab. We will need your email address one more time to log in later. Now click on download. So we're just gonna click on download, I guess, either Windows or Mac, whatever you're working on which platform. I'm working on Windows, so I'm gonna click on download. Now it is downloading. So I'll give you one more second to start your download as well. Okay, I'm trying to go really slow here. Hope you can keep up. And now while this program is downloading, let me show you what you will see when you open it. So just let it download in the background. You don't need to do anything now. Just watch me. Okay, watch here. So that's what you will see when you open GameMaker. At the left or at the right, I don't know, you can drag this around however you want. You have your resources. So basically those are all of the things that are required to make your game. Your images, your graphics go there, your scripts go there, your objects, your levels, everything you need to make your game has its own folder. So there's a folder for graphics, a folder for sounds, a folder for levels. So if we create a sprite, we get an image like this. And if we double click right here, we can edit the image. So let's just paint something, fill this. Now if I click on the X on the top here, it will close and I have created my first sprite. Now if I head over to rooms, double click on the room, a window like this will open. This is the room we're working in. A room has different layers. Those work like layers in Photoshop. So layers on top are overlayers on the bottom. So far we have a background layer, an instance layer, and now we will also add an asset layer. You can do that by clicking on create a new asset layer. Now I will just grab the sprite I created and drag it in. You can also change the size and the scale. And if I click on play now, I will see a window with exactly what I created in my room so far. Those two sprites are on the asset layer. You can see them right here. And if you turn off the visibility of this layer, they obviously disappear. So I will close that because my download has finished now. And yours should have finished by now as well. So I clicked show in folder. And here I got the GameMaker Studio installer. Double click that, might take a couple of seconds. Now it's reopening. I agree. Yeah, sure. Yeah, install this shit. I hope you know how to install a program. It's very simple. Good. Let's click on finish. And now GameMaker Studio should be opening. So this is what you should see when you start GameMaker. Enter your email address. Hope you have saved it somewhere or you have the tab still open. So enter your email address that you've used for creating your UUGames account and enter your password. Let's do a bit of catch-up time because who knows how fast your computer is. Just install the program open GameMaker. Sometimes it takes a little longer to open, so maybe that's why we should include a bit of catch-up time here as well. Skipping ahead in the video is fine. Just pausing and going backward in the video is not allowed. So if this takes too long for you, just, skip ahead a couple of seconds. That's totally allowed and fine. No problem at all. So it loads and loads and loads. And as I said, just enter your data, your email and your password, log in, and I'll give you a couple more seconds just to make sure. Now what you should see is this, and obviously you are going to click on New. And then you have two decisions, drag and drop. We're not interested in that. And GameMaker language. So basically the choice between, do you want to use drag and drop actions to program your game, or do you want to use real, quote unquote, real programming to make your game? And I recommend you go with GameMaker language right away. It's not that difficult. So let's do that. Give it a name, save it somewhere. Now what I want you to do is do the same things that I did while downloading GameMaker, okay? Create a sprite and add them into your room. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. You should see the resources somewhere. Right click on sprites in the resources. Then click create sprite. A window like this should appear. Then if you don't know where to click, you need to double click on the small image on the top, or you can also click on edit image on the edit image button. Then don't draw something complicated, okay, because we don't have all that much time. Just draw a triangle or something like that. Fill it with a color with the fill tool. And then you're basically ready to go. By the way, have a look real quick, make sure that your image is facing this direction. It should face to the right. Now in this view, look right here. Click on your sprite, you can see this little cross. This is the median point, the center of your sprite. You want this little X cross thingy to be in the center of your sprite, so just click into the center of your sprite. And you're good. Open the rooms in the resources, your scenes more or less. Double click on the room to open it. You should see a window like this. Then we need to create an asset layer. You can create the asset layer here. Then simply drag the sprite you created into the asset layer. And click play. That's the small triangle icon at the top. Cool. Catch up time. Make sure the asset layer is selected, otherwise you cannot drag the sprites into your room. Now let's actually program something. In order to program, in order to code, we need to create a new object. So in the assets, let's right click on objects. Where's objects? It's above rooms. Right click, create object. These objects are used to code stuff. First of all, you can change the look of your object by clicking here where currently there stands no sprite. If we click on that, we can choose one of the sprites we created. And then let's make our object move. For that, we will take this events window, add event, and then you're gonna click on the very first thing, which is create, the create event. So this code is called whenever we start the game, whenever this object is created. So right from the beginning, as soon as this object starts existing, this code will be called, and it will only be called once. So one cool thing you can do in GameMaker is just type in something like speed equals 3. That's all you need to write, speed equals 3, and we'll see very soon what that does. Once again, if you didn't manage to keep up the first time, create a new object, choose the correct sprite for the object by clicking on no sprite, then selecting the correct sprite. When you have a new object, click on add event, select create event, and then in the create event write speed equals 3. Now, so we don't get confused, let's either remove the asset layer or just click on the eye so it turns invisible. Then we will select the instance layer so we can drag our objects in. You cannot drag your sprite into the instance layer. You can only drag that into the assets layer, but you can drag your object into the instance layer. So let's drag a couple of them in here. Let's hit save and click the run button. As you can see, all of the objects are moving to the right. That's because we gave them a speed. If you couldn't keep up, here's what you need to do. Go into the room, disable the assets layer, select the instance layer, drag your objects into the room, hit the play button, look if anything moves. If so, then you did it correctly. Ta-da! We can also give them a direction. If we don't want them to go to the right, we just enter direction equals. Currently it's like this. 0 is to the right, direction 0. And then 90 would be up. So let's try direction equals 90. Just enter this. I'll give you a bit of time. And hit run, or F5. You can also hit F5 to run your game. As you can see, everything's moving up. Awesome. Now let's try giving them a random direction. That's also pretty simple. All you need to do is typing direction equals, then you write random. You open a bracket, write 360, and then close the bracket. And what this does is it gives you a random number between 0 and 360. So we basically set the direction for every single one of these objects to random direction. As you can see, all of them are moving into a random direction. That's cool. And was pretty simple. Now let's actually make them face the direction they're moving in. For that we just need to add one more line, and we will write image, angle equals direction. This way our image angle, so the direction the sprite is rotated in, will be the same as the direction it moves in. The way these equations work is pretty simple. The left side changes to be the right side. It's not like in school that you can write something like this, 4 equals 2 plus 2, but in programming these sides can be completely different. This will basically turn into this. So the left side will change the right side, just to calculate what you want the left side to be. So in this case, as I've said, image underscore angle equals direction will make our sprites face in the right direction. As you can see, the triangles are facing in the direction they are moving, which is cool. Now, if we want them to move backward, we just add plus 180. Now they should move backward. Or they still move in the same direction, but they face in a different direction. Hit play. As you can see, now they're moving backward. Let's remove that plus 180 for a second, so they move in the right direction again. Image angle equals direction. So far we just have 3 lines in our create event. Let's add a new event. Let's choose other and outside room. Okay, add event, other, outside room. Get a new window where we can code. So that's what in the create event, and this is what's in the outside room event. This is called every time the object leaves the room. And in this case, we're just gonna type direction plus equals. So you make a plus sign, then an equal sign, and then you write 180. Look at this, write it into your outside room event. Now what this does is it adds 180 to the current direction. If we just said direction equals 180, that would mean it would move to the left, because 0 is to the right, 90 is up, 180 is to the left. But if we say plus equals 180, we will take whatever this currently is and add 180 on top of it. So it will go exactly in the opposite direction. And we also want the sprite to look in the correct direction. So we're just gonna type image angle equals direction again. This way our sprite will face in the direction that it's moving again. So now whenever one of them leaves the room, they should come back. Very nice. So I think my plan is to use these arrows as enemies. So let's try to create an enemy spawn system or something like this. For this, we will just create a new object. Right click on object, create new object. Then you will add an event, and we will use a create event, and then we will use an alarm. So an event that is called periodically to spawn new enemies. So in the create event of your new object, type alarm equals 30. This way we set an alarm to 30 frames. That's 1 second. You can obviously also use a higher frame rate, but I'm not gonna show you how to do this in this video. And let's just type alarm equals 30. Now we need to add an event in the same object, and we need to use an alarm event, and we need to use alarm 0. In alarm 0, we once again want to type alarm equals 30. So that basically resets the watch. So in 30 frames, this event will be called again. which then again will reset the timer, so it's called again and again and again and again. If we didn't type this here, it would just be called once, exactly after 30 frames. Here you have a bit of safety catch-up time. What we just did is we created a new object with two events, a create event and an alarm event. In both of these events, we just set the alarm to 30 frames with alarm equals 30. Now what we want to do is we want to create an enemy object. Let's actually go to our triangle and call it here, where you can see the name. You just type obj enemy. So we know what this is. Then we go to our second object and we call it obj spawn. These will spawn enemies. So now we type instance underscore create underscore layer. Then we open the bracket, and now when you look down here in the bottom line, you can see the inputs that this function requires, or the formatting that you need to do. So we need to give this function an x coordinate, an y coordinate, a layer ID or a layer name, and then the object we want to create. So for the coordinates, let's just pick some z coordinates for now. So for example, 200, 200. Let's use that as our coordinates. That will be around here or something like this. Once again, here you can see the coordinates of your mouse. So basically in the top here is 0, 0. Then when you go to the right, the x coordinate gets bigger. If you go down, the y coordinate gets bigger. So instance create layer 200, 200 as our coordinates. Then as layer ID or layer name, we will use instances. So the name of this layer where all of our objects are on at the moment. That's the layer we want to create our object on. And the object we want to create, is obj enemy. That's it. Okay, a little recap of what you should have. You should have an spawner object with an create event that says alarm equals 30, and an alarm 0 event that says alarm equals 30 and instance create open bracket 200, 200, instances in quotations mark, obj enemy close bracket. Now obviously we need to put that object into the room, otherwise it will not work. That's a common mistake. Don't forget to put your object into the room. It has this little question mark sign because we didn't give it a sprite, but that's fine. It doesn't need a sprite, it's just our spawner. Let's remove all of this. Also, it doesn't really matter where you put it. Let's click play. Okay, now an enemy spawns out of this. That's cool. Let's actually make them spawn from wherever we put the spawner. The only thing we need to do to change that is go to our object spawner and change the coordinates where we create the object to x and y. So these implemented variables will just tell GameMaker to create the object wherever this object is at. So wherever the object spawner is, that's where we will also create our enemy. Because we probably want to see our spawner, let's create a new sprite and let's call it SBR spawner. Just draw a circle or a star or something like that. doesn't really matter. Just really quick, doesn't need to look perfect. You don't have a lot of time. Close it, click into the center of the image to, put the pivot point, the rotation point to the correct position. Then go to your spawner and select the correct sprite right here. By where there's no sprite, just click on sprite spawner. Now let's put it into the center of the room, right around here. Save, and let's hit play. Let's see if the enemies come out of the spawner at the correct position. And in fact, they do. So test this in your game as well. Should work in your game too. Just make sure everything works so far. I'll show you my two objects again. This is object enemy. It has those 3 lines in the create event, those 2 lines in the outside room event. Then we have the spawner, which has 1 line in the create event and 2 lines in the alarm 0 event. So now let's create a player object and a player sprite. I want you to do that right now. Create a player sprite and create a player object which has the player sprite. You should know how to do this by now. Do it. I will do it as well. Make the sprite face to the right. Close the sprite, set the center point into the center of the sprite. Create an object. Rename the object. Give it the correct sprite by clicking on no sprite and selecting your sprite. Now we have a player object. Let's place that into our room. So if you're done, we will create an event, and this time we're gonna go for the step event. The step event is the one that is called every single frame. So 30 times per second, 60 times per second, whatever your frame rate is, that's how often this event is called. It's the update event, the step event. So let's code something into that. And we want the player to control this. So what do? We enter an if condition that works like this. We write if and then a question, something that we want to check. If keyboard check. So this will check if a certain key on the keyboard is pressed, and into the brackets, into the 2 brackets at the end right here, we write vk underscore right. Press tab and write motion underscore add. This will basically just make the object go faster in a certain direction. So the direction we want to is 0. 0 is to the right, remember. And speed, we need to take something relatively small because this is called every single frame and it will add up quite quickly. So let's choose something like 0.5. Let's go with 0.1. It's probably enough. Let's be real here. Now let's do the same thing for pressing left. duplicate this block and write VK left instead of VK right. But instead of direction 0, we will go with direction 180. Now if we press play, oh, have I already added the player object into the room? Yes, I have. If I press to the right, my object will start speeding up to the right, and if I press left, it will start speeding up to the left. Oops, I went outside the room. Come back. Come to Papa. Okay, so this works. The acceleration might be a bit too slow, so let's maybe go with 0.3 or something like that. Don't forget to test your game if it still runs. Okay, I guess that's fine. Now let's do the same with up and down. You can do that yourself. If you don't, you can have a look. Use VK up. Direction 90 is up. Direction 270 is down. Now if I use the arrow keys, I can use all over the screen. Movement feels a bit weird, so if you want to have a really sharp movement, let's just try that for a second. We can just reset the speed to 0 before this, speed equals 0. That's what we're gonna type before doing all of this crap right here. And then we're just gonna use a much higher speed, because if we reset the speed every frame, we need to start with something a lot higher. Let's go with 10. The last number is the speed. Now, as you can see, the movement is not that wishy-washy anymore. It's very sharp movement. Pretty nice. If you want to have something in between the two, which is what I want, you need to choose a speed that's somewhere in between. Let's go with 2. And then multiply the speed with something. Don't set it to 0, just write multiply, the little star, and then equals. This will equal this number with the thing we write now, and we will write 0.9 and maybe 0.92 or something. So this means every frame we will lose about 8% of our speed. And then we will add a bit of new speed if the player presses something. So that should feel a lot better. Let's see. Yes, it feels a lot better. And I also want to give you some time to play test your game, see if everything still works. Do that right now. Move around a little bit in your room. If it doesn't work, don't panic. Just go back a couple of minutes, see what you've missed. And obviously game over, because you didn't manage to keep up. I can't really deal with the low frame rate, so I'll show you how to increase the frame rate, okay? It's really painful to look at 30 frames. You just click here in options. Here in options, you go to main. And then here in main options, general, you should already see the frame rate. Let's go with 60 instead of 30. You can also go for something way higher. You can also go for dynamic frame rate, but let's choose 60 for now, okay? 60 is way better. Click on apply to apply 60 frames per second. And now what you will realize when we hit play is that everything will be twice as fast. Oops, now I'm moving really quickly, so I think if the enemy is moving a bit faster is fine, but let's reduce our speed to 1 instead of 2. Save that, hit play. Very nice. Ooh. Quite difficult. But feels quite cool. Now let's change the controls to ASDW instead of arrow keys, because I think that feels a bit better and I want to show you how to do that. We can also do it in a way that allows you to do both, so let's just do that. Don't see a problem with that. Just duplicate the if line right here. And instead of if, we write or. And this way we will check if this is true or if this is true. So if we either press the right arrow key or the key we enter here, then we will add the motion to the right. So in order to check a key, we need to type ORD, then open a bracket, write D, because D is the key for right O. And we also need to put that in quotation marks. And then we need to close the bracket. So now we have basically two brackets inside each other. Or keyboard underscore check, open bracket, ORD, open bracket, then quotation marks D, and then close bracket, close bracket. So now I can either press right or I can press D, and both buttons will do exactly the same thing. Let's do this with all of the other keys as well. So just copy and paste this to the other keys. And left is the A key, up is the W key, and down is the S key. Save that and let's test if it works. In fact, it does. I can control with both ASD, W and arrow keys now, which is very nice. Now let's check if we are hitting an enemy, then we want to restart the room, we want to restart the level. This is actually pretty easy to do. Just have a look right here. I'll click on Add Event in my player, and then I'll click on Collision, and then Collision with Enemy. So this is an event that gets called every time the player collides with the enemy. And what we type in here is just room underscore restart. I'll give you some time to do that. Go ahead, do it now. Also, don't forget to put brackets behind the room restart, because it's a function and a function always needs brackets. Hit the save button and press play. Now if I hit an enemy, the game restarts, but doesn't feel that good because the hit boxes are a bit too large. In order to make the hit boxes a bit better, double click on your sprite, then open this tab right here where it says collision mask, and you will see a square. You can go to manual right here. That allows you to adapt the hitbox yourself. But you can also make it a lot more precise just by leaving it automatic and going to precise collision checking. This way will be pretty much pixel perfect collision detection. It's a bit slower, costs more performance, but in this case it absolutely doesn't matter. So let's just select all of our sprites, go to collision mask and use precise collision checking. I'll give you a second to do that. Make your collision checking precise right here. And then I'm gonna test you when you're done. You can test as well if everything works. Just play your game a little bit. If you hit an enemy, the game should restart. Now, of course, we shouldn't allow the player to leave the room. Right now you can just leave in whatever direction you want. That's obviously not all that cool. So let's go to our player object, go into the step event, and then we're just gonna type x equals clamp. And clamp does exactly what it says it does. It clamps a value between two values. So you can basically give it an upper limit and a lower limit, and you can make sure that the value stays in between those two numbers. So first of all, we need to type the value that we want to clamp, which is the x value. Then we need to type our minimum value, which is 0. And then our maximum value, which is room_width. So the size of our room, the width of our room. Now every time the x coordinate of the player is smaller than 0, it will automatically be set to 0. If it's larger than the room width, it will automatically be set to the room width. That's perfect. Let's do the same with the y coordinate. Y equals clamp y, 0, and then instead of room width, we're gonna use room_height. I'll give you a second to do this. Save it, click save, and I'm gonna check if it already works. Yes. I can still go pretty far outside, so if you don't want that, then you can just add a little bit to the clamping. So instead of 0, you can use maybe 40 and 40 as the minimum, and as the maximum you can subtract 40, and this way we won't be able to go that far to the edge. Move the game over here so we can still see the code. And now I really can't leave the room anymore. That's perfect. So once again, this is our player object. This is the code we have in the step event of the player. And this is the only line we have in the collision event of the player if it collides with object enemy. So I think this is a good time to take a break because we have a fully functional game. Don't worry, how do you continue from here if you like GameMaker? If you enjoyed this, then how do you continue learning GameMaker? How do you get better? Well, firstly, there will be more videos like this or similar videos on this channel, especially if this video does well. Then expect to see a part 2 because what you're seeing on the screen right here, we haven't created that yet. That's another 30 minutes of work or something like that. I will definitely link some GameMaker stuff on the end card out right here, whether that's my own videos or other Game Maker tutorial creators that I really like and that I think are good. Pick one, go for it. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sticking till the end. Wow, that's really amazing. Have an amazing day. Don't forget to smile, make the world your playground, and see you in the next one. Ooh yeah.